the success of a business depends on the business owner's zest and energy, okay? Zest and energy comes from tapping into your unique potential.
Hello, I'm your host, Aveline Clark, and this is the 6-Star Business Podcast, where we have conversations with amazing, incredible people all about what it takes to be 6-star, going beyond the status quo, doing things differently, and how they bring purpose, love, and impact into their businesses every day. And in today's episode, I sat down with the wonderful Anne Trager together with my co-host, zest. Anne is wonderful. Why? Well, in her words, she's as quiet as a storm, yet she's full of energy, ideas, and expertise around reshaping human performance. Yet when you're speaking with her, she is pure calm. And she is. That's exactly what this conversation is about. She has brought together her many years of a number of different careers where she was at the peak. She really learnt her craft to an expert level, and she's transformed herself a number of times. She brings all of that together in the work she does. And what I love about what she does is that she's working with individuals and organizations around managing energy and balance and how they can bring their best to the world, but she's doing it differently. It's not about the status quo. It's not about competition. It's about the individual. And that's what we're all about at 6-Star. And Anne just really spoke to us and resonated with us. And she had a lot to share. It was a real gem of an episode. You'll get a lot from this one. So enjoy our conversation with Anne Trager. Hello, here we are. It is another episode. I'm here with one of my co-hosts, zest. And our guest today is the lovely Anne Trager. How are you today, Anne?
I'm great. Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here with both of you. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. And Corey, how are you doing? I mean, Anne was someone that you met first and brought her into the 6-Star fold, and I got to know her. So, yeah, how are you? And are you excited about this?
I'm always excited and flattered to have my connections being guests in this podcast, and looking forward to the amazing stories they're going to tell us. So, in particular, what Anne has been doing and is today doing, and what she is going to do in the future. So, pretty excited.
Yeah, me too. And for those that are listening to the audio, everyone here has big smiles on their faces. It's like, we're all beaming love and energy and joy, which is fabulous. A great way to start. So let's get into this conversation and let's get to know you a bit better, Anne. I always like to ask our guests some very simple questions up front. So the first one, where are you in the world? And then after that, can you tell us who you serve and how do you serve them?
Yeah, sure. That's a fantastic place to start. Right now, I am in southwestern France, so near Toulouse, which is a beautiful part of the world. I am not French, okay, or originally I am American. I've lived in France for a really, really, really long time, and I'll just leave it at more than half of my life, okay? I serve both individuals and businesses. I serve business owners, emerging leaders, established leaders as well, knowledge workers, people who are really, really seeking to thrive, to get a little bit more out of their work, to get a little bit more out of their day, to get a little bit more out of their life all the time. Okay, these are the people I serve. People who really are actively looking to grow and to transform and to thrive.
I love it. I can't wait to learn more about this. And how do you do that? How do you serve them?
How do I serve them? As best I can. There we go. So my goal is to really help people close the gap between who they are now and who they can possibly be. Okay, I am totally obsessed with human potential and how we can tap into these incredible stores of potential and energy we have inside. Okay, so I founded the Potentializer Academy for that purpose. Okay. And what I did was to bring together all of my experience that I want to share with people. Okay. And that's 30 plus years in business, combined with about as much and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of like really trying to figure out this, how we can tap into those stores, those the things that we're not tapping into on an everyday basis. And I've done that in a lot of different ways. And so basically I brought it all together, and I have a pathway that I bring people along, and it's never really exactly in always the same order because everybody is individual. But basically we start with rebooting, and then we move on to rebalancing, and then we move on to reconnecting. And I use a lot of different tools. I coach, I consult, I have online programs, and each person or team that I work with gets their own personalized version of that, okay, of all of this in order for that to help them achieve their goals.
Wow, that's big. That's huge. And just before we get into more of your journey and what brought you to here, I'd love to know, what do you enjoy doing when you're not busy serving people and living your purpose?
Well, so I'm really lucky. All of my life, my purpose, the way that I've served the world has just really been combined, like totally aligned with who I am and what I like to do. So basically, I spend all of my time focused on these issues of how you can have more energy and zest in life and getting more out of what you're doing. And I do that in any number of ways. I mean, I'm really involved in understanding biohacking and what that means and how we can use it. I do martial arts and Tai Chi and meditation and yoga because these are things that nourish me, okay? And I've been doing them long before it was ever, before it was the thing to do, okay? So all of these things are part of my practice. I go outside and I get some sunshine, and I spend time with people I love dearly, and I reach out and I build these connections with other people. And that's what I do in my time. I mean, I literally spend all of my waking hours doing a combination of those things while I am serving people.
Oh, that's brilliant. Love it. It just, there's some commonalities in the things that you're talking about, which is all about energy and these things, helping others to do it. But obviously, you live and breathe what you teach and enable in people as well, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. Really beautiful. I'd love to get to know a bit about your background. Like, what brought you to where you are today? Would you like to take us through the journey of Anne Trager and what happened that has brought you to this place where you're doing this amazing work?
It's a long journey. It began really when I was really young. I lost my mother when I was 7. I lost my father when I was 8. I moved from family to family. I lost one family when I was 10 and moved on. And we don't need to go into the details. And what those experiences taught me at a very young age is that it's really possible to like move forward and make your way through a few simple mechanisms, okay? And the first is just deciding to do it. I mean, you decide every second of the day whether you're going to move forward, stay still, or move back, okay? And it is a conscious decision. And I learned that really, really young, okay? And once you've made a decision, the next step is to really, really understand that determination is key. Okay. I mean, you have to keep at it. It's all the time. Okay. And as I went along on my path, so as soon as I could possibly get away from the context in which I was living, so I was about 19 at the time, I moved to France because it was pretty far away from where I was living and what I was experiencing. So I moved to France, and I decided that I was just going to make my life in France. And so when I got to France, so that was, decision, determination. I did it. I figured out how to do it, and I got there, and I started my thing. And I trained to be a French chef. Okay, that was my thing. I wanted to eat really, really good food. And at the time, that's where you went. You went to France to eat really, really good food. And if I wanted to eat really good food all the time, I thought I should learn to make really good food so I could do it all the time. And so that's what I did. And I worked as a private chef for a number of years, which allowed me to do a whole bunch of other things, including studying Chinese and going to China and working in all of these incredible places all over Europe. And that was a really fabulous time for me as I was building up this. Now, the thing is that I have a lot of energy. Okay, basically speaking, I have this huge amount of energy just as a base point. Okay, and so I needed to do more than one thing. I'm always doing more than one thing. So at the same time, I was translating, and I realized that working in two languages was really, really interesting. And so I started working in corporate communications, and I learned about the whole publishing world. And so I transitioned from cooking, which I thought was really interesting and it allowed me to travel all over the world, to something that was going to satisfy my intellectual curiosity a little bit more. And that was really what I made my career in. And I founded a business and I started working in corporate communications. And then much later on, I founded a publishing house. And so I did all of this work in figuring out how people communicate, okay? And can communicate better and get across their ideas, okay? And I think that that's really, really an important part of my work, ultimately, because part of our energy and work comes from the connections we have with other people. And connections are made through our ability to communicate on several different levels with other people. Okay? So that was sort of this first phase. Okay? And all the while, I'm doing martial arts, I'm doing like these extraordinary meditation retreats. And again, long before everybody was talking about it, I'm fascinated by this idea of like basic energy. And this is something you learn when you do a lot of martial arts is that there are ways to have more energy, okay? And I'm talking physical energy, okay? There really are ways. Now, there are no magic pills, and it's not about having more coffee and all of that. And, doing a wellness program. It's about this constant practice and figuring out where it is for you. So I'm doing this throughout this entire phase of my life. And then I hit, my mid 40s, early to mid 40s, okay? And I have a new husband, okay? So second husband, a young child. We moved to a new place. I had a new business. I had well, and there I was, okay, in this entirely new, stressful situation. And what I had learned so far, which was this whole notion of determination, making decision, deciding to do something, and determination, and like self-development and all of that, it wasn't really enough. I was completely exhausted. Okay. And so I had this turning point, and it was really, really critical for me because there I was one afternoon at what I called the witching hour. It was between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. And my daughter needed something, she was pulling on at me, whatever it was. She was 4 at the time or something, very young age. And I remember being just crumbling to the floor, my back against the wall, literally pulling my hair out. Okay. I had a thyroid issue. So like I pulled on it and it came out. Okay. That kind of thing, literally pulling my hair out. And my daughter screamed to me and she said, "You're such a witch." And I was like, "Ooh." It was like a slap in the face. I mean, it was like worse than a slap in the face. It was like, it was just this wake up call. And I remember looking at her and just relaxing, like trying to bring in some of the stuff that I knew how to do and breathing deeply. And I said to myself, "This is not who you are, Anne. Okay? You need to get back to who you are." Okay? And I realized that on the next part of my journey that what was missing was this energy piece, okay, that I was exhausted, okay, that I was like totally physically exhausted, I was emotionally exhausted, I was spiritually exhausted, okay, just completely lost in that space of not having the energy I need, okay. And so that's when this next phase began, as I started really exploring, well, how can I get that back? How can I get that back and build it so that it's so strong that it never goes away, okay? So that I can, and so that I can carry that with me for the rest of my life, like right to the end, you know, right to the end, because one of my ultimate goals, and I remember saying this to my husband, like on our very first date, and then saying, oh my God, what have I done? He said, what are your aspirations in life? And we're talking about this. And I remember looking at him saying, well, I want to die well. And then I was like, oh my God, what have I said? This is maybe a little too intense, whatever. Well, we ended up getting married, and this was the husband I'm still with, the second marriage, okay? And we have this fabulous relationship. So it was okay to say that. I was really totally authentic. And truly, that is one of my ultimate goals. And for me, that means like living fully and completely and like more than you can even imagine, okay? And having that energy, that zest. Okay? And I learned this word zest a lot later on, and it's a word that's used in positive psychology and a lot of the modern research on the art and science of flourishing. So flourishing is a kind of happiness, okay? It's not hedonic happiness of pleasure. It's the eudaimonic happiness of satisfaction, life satisfaction, okay? And one of the top five key strengths for flourishing is this notion of zest, okay? This notion of energy, the energy to do what you have to do. And energy is on several different levels. So there we are, and I'm doing my, and I have my publishing house, which then was like, I will just say, not going where I wanted it to go. And I said, well, so now it's time for me to bring all of this together and to bring it to other people, when I figured it out. Now, in between times, so we talked about mid-40s when I was exhausted and I couldn't do anything, and, I had bum knees and I had, health issues and all of this, and the doctors were saying, oh, my little lady, you're going to have to just get used to it, at your age and all of this. So at the age of 50, I set myself the goal, and I did it, and I won the French national martial arts championship that I was in. So I'm a national champion. Yay! But I was 50, okay, and I was competing against these 35-year-olds, because the category for seniors or veterans or whatever they call us is really, really broad, okay. So so I put it into action, and I live it, and I put it into action every day. And the thing is that what I do, and I will stop talking so you can ask some questions. But the thing is that it's an everyday thing, and maintaining this kind of zest, this energy, this just extraordinary ability to tap into the awe that exists in life is a practice. It's not one shot. It is absolutely every day, and we have to do it. You have to do the work.
Thank you, Anne. There's so much in that journey. I absolutely love. And by the way, congratulations. You are a national champion of martial arts at 50. Oh my God, that is just brilliant. And I love it when people, against the odds and against what, the establishment tell them, turn around, overcome everything and beat it and do what they have set out to achieve, despite what other people tell them if they hear that they can't do it. So well done to you. What a great
example. Thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned this moment with your 4-year-old daughter and her calling you a witch, and I think we've all had moments in our as parents, but that seems to be a pivotal moment for you, because you've brought it up as being this moment of clarity. Did you already have the sense within you before that event that your purpose was linked to the flow of energy and being in tune with the energy that you talk about of oneself?
That's a really good question. I think the question of purpose, everybody's talking about purpose and we need to find our purpose. And sometimes I think that this question is one that comes a little bit later in life. You know, I had a lot of purposes. I mean, my purpose at one point during that whole phase was to like learn to dance the tango. Okay. I mean, it was much more down to earth as a purpose. And I always kind of struggled with like, what is my purpose in life? That question didn't really mean anything to me for a really long time. And actually, I think I say that because I want to reassure people who like have no idea and they say purpose, what does that mean? And I help a lot of people who say that to me. You know, they're like, I don't know what my purpose is. And then I say, well, let's talk about it a little bit more. And they're like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So I totally get that and understand that. I think that for a lot of people, this notion of purpose it's not so clear cut. Okay. And it emerges through what you do and how you interact with your world. Okay. That said, there are some things about me that I actually verbalized and said very clearly, very early on, that are akin to this notion of purpose. Okay. I understood at one point when I was in my late teens that I could have that I was really good at one-on-one connections, okay, and that like big huge crowds, it's really out of my comfort zone. Okay. And I'm okay with pushing out of my comfort zone, and a lot better at it now than I was then. But for me it was like, well, maybe what that means, and this I said this when I was a teen, so yes, you know, that what I have to do is to work one-on-one and create a ripple effect. Okay. So now I have developed my skills and I can work with teams, okay? And I work with teams, but I do a lot of one-on-one work, okay? So that was really early on, okay, related to my purpose. I had a dream in my 20s at some point, I don't remember exactly when it was, and it was this fabulous dream. I mean, my dreams are extraordinary because they are really clear-cut. If it's too complicated, I don't understand it. So I have this little deal with my, dream world that if I'm going to understand it and get something out of it, it's got to be pretty clear, okay? So I had this dream, and you'll see, okay, where I was in a movie, okay? And it's kind of really down to earth. I was in a movie, and it was the lunch break, and I was having a chat with the director of the movie, okay? And you can interpret that however you want to interpret that, okay? And the director handed me a choice, okay? A choice. And the choice was I could have the low-fat menu, okay? I could have the gourmet tasting menu, okay? Or I could have immediate, instantaneous enlightenment. Okay? I swear, this is a real dream, okay? I am not making this up, okay? So, what did I choose? Any guesses? Well, I
Enlightenment.
obviously, Well, I wish I would have chosen enlightenment. I
You
chose the
haven't,
tasting
shame you.
menu. I chose the tasting menu, like the gourmet tasting menu, okay? And I woke up, and of course I said, oh, what have you done? You could have chosen immediate enlightenment, okay? So So I chose the tasting menu. Now, you have to admit that choosing the tasting menu, like getting the most out of the flavors of life kind of thing, is really linked to what my purpose is right now and how I am serving the world. Okay. So, but it didn't become really clear until so first I had that moment and I had to figure out that final key, which for me was the energy piece. Okay. And then from there, I could formulate it into something that I could really bring value to other people.
Wow, that's so profound and deep. So the energy piece came after the moment when your daughter delivered her words.
That said, yes, and it did. That said, what has always fascinated me about martial arts that I always began was the whole energy piece of martial arts. Okay. There is a thing that you learn in martial arts about controlling your relaxation, your state of relaxation, your autonomic nervous system, all of these words, I had no idea what they were. Okay. That you learn in martial arts in order to be stronger and have quicker reaction times and to not and to respond rather than to react, which are all things that I bring into my work. So again, I was interested in it, but I didn't really formulate it until afterwards.
I think your enlightenment, which you haven't chosen during your dream session, came through the orchestration of all your skills, which formulate what you're doing today, right? The rebooting, the rebalancing, and then literally the reconnecting of your
Mm,
customers.
mm,
And the
mm,
question
mm.
I have is, what do most of them have in common? What are the fears, the challenges when you review the one-on-ones you have had over the past years? So, what are the common denominators where you always, which are literally a kind of a brick wall? They're not
Mm.
able to get through, push through, jump over, whatever it is.
What I find is that more and more people have lost their sense of personal empowerment. So I find that a lot of people come to me and they use words like, I want to be more confident, or I want to, I can't reach these goals. I want to reach such and such a goal, or I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that. And when I start asking the questions, I realize that there's this shift that people think it is normal to be exhausted all the time. Okay. That it is normal to not be really clear with what you're doing. That it is like your mind is not thinking very clearly. That it is normal to be overwhelmed. Okay. And this is part of the environment we're living in today. People are overwhelmed all the time. The thing is it's not normal. Even when you have a ton of information coming in, because we all do all the time, and we always have, are we have filtering systems to filter it out, okay, but we have to activate them, okay? So it's not normal to be overwhelmed, actually, okay? And it is not normal to be exhausted, and it is not normal to have brain fog, okay? What is normal is to be full of energy, okay, to think clearly and to be able to focus, okay, and to be in a good mood, okay. All of that is perfectly normal for every single human being, okay. Now, we all have mitigating circumstances which make that state harder to reach, but we are all perfectly capable of reaching that state, okay. And it's not rocket science, okay, and there is no magic pill, and you don't need 100 supplements to get there, okay. So there's that aspect of sort of lowering our standards and our expectations of like what is possible, okay. And the second aspect of that is this lack of agency that I find that people forget that they have a choice, okay. They forget that they have a choice, that okay, so I have this business and I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this and I have to do that and I should do this and I should do that, and these are expectations, and actually every single second of the day you have a choice, okay. You absolutely have a choice how you are going to react in every single situation, okay. Now, you may not have control over your external environment. I'm not saying you have control over everything. I'm saying you have a choice, okay? Which means you don't actually have to do whatever it is you think you have to do, okay? That you either choose to do it because it is necessary for your survival, okay? Or you choose not to do it, in which case you put your survival in danger for more, life and death situations, okay? Or you choose to do it because it will advance your business, or you choose not to do it and to do something else that will advance your business, or you choose not to advance your business right now because maybe you're advancing it enough and that you can step back and and so on and so forth. I mean, we're in a choice. And when you actually step, and this I find is a real turning point for the people I work with and the teams I work with, when you step away from the overwhelm, out of control, things happening to me, and you step into me deciding how I'm going to react, or this team deciding from a place of choice. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely it does. And I'm sure that our listeners are kind of going, yes, that's right. That makes sense for sure. And speaking from experience, it's so easy to just get caught in that loop of do. I must, I have to, I've got all these things on my list, and then just keep going and going and going.
And forgetting that that's a choice, okay? And so if that's what you want to do, well, there are ways to optimize your energy, to increase your flow, to be able to do all of those things on your list, okay? Or that's one choice. The other choice is to prioritize and to limit and to, reduce, and to reduce it to the most important things, and so on. I mean, there are all kinds of choices. There is no one right answer, but the key is that you have a choice. Okay? And even when the, beep beep is hitting the fan, you have a choice how you're going to react. Okay? And that is when it becomes really interesting, okay? Because then even when you are not in control of what is happening, you find your space where, well, actually, yes, I do have some control as to how I'm going to respond to this situation. And again, it's a practice. It's every day, working on these skills.
You've obviously had a very unique journey, and it sounds to me like one that has been led from an internal place, a more inspired, connected in place. You haven't necessarily been guided by external forces or the norm or what's going on in the society's world, right?
That's a choice.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And it's the best choice. It's
well, and I mean, in the late 1990s, when like internet became available in France, I was already doing remote work. Okay, so I mean, I figured it out right away. So always ahead of the curve, never doing what everybody told me I should do. Ever. Okay, so yeah, it does give me kind of a unique perspective on things.
and I just want to honor that as someone who's lived a very different life. But it's also, I just want to point out how it's like the road less traveled. When we have these journeys where we choose to do it our own way, we learn so much, but we're actually on our own unique path. And it feels to me that is exactly what you've created for yourself. And that's what you inspire in others with the work that you do. Would you say that's correct?
I would say that you're absolutely right. And I think that what at the same time, what you've just described as being unique is also extraordinarily banal, because every single person on this planet has their own unique path. Okay. And so what I do is I just help people see that more clearly, and step into it more fully so that they can live it out more fully.
How important do you think it is for, and I'm going to say business owners, or maybe it's others, but let's just talk business owners and entrepreneurs. That's the listener demographic for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for us to be doing things differently to the status quo or our competitors, our peers, and being, when I say different, I mean different to them because we are honoring our own uniqueness. How important is that as a business owner today?
I think it's really key. Okay. You will never really express your full potential unless you are aligned with what is uniquely you. Okay. And as an individual, and particularly as a business owner. Okay. Businesses are, the success of a business depends on the business owner's zest and energy. Okay. Zest and energy comes from tapping into your unique potential. Okay. And so when people, and I know, I mean, I worked in communications for a long time. I know this whole thing about differentiate. How am I different than anybody else? And it's a hard question to answer. Okay. It's a hard question to answer when you look at it from a marketing perspective or a communications perspective. It becomes easier when you start digging into who am I as a business owner? What is my unique vision that I am bringing out into the world through what I am offering? Okay. And if you imitate other people, which is a very valid approach to business, okay, we are all imitating everybody else since the beginning of time, since the dawn of time. So there's that is an approach, but at some point you add your unique flair, okay, and that is going to make your business successful. Okay, it is going to make your teams want to work for you more. Okay, it's going to be that unique thing. Okay, so yes, there's the answer to your question, I hope. Yeah.
And what would you say is the two main components for customers to get on the journey with you, or the lack they have? Because listening to you and reminding myself of the rebooting, the rebalancing, and the reconnecting, and looking at the today's work environment. Everybody is in a hamster wheel. We have 24/7 media. It's literally nowadays it's all the negative aspects. So you see earthquakes, wars happening all over the world, and what I'm missing is the self awareness and the consciousness, which you have to a certain level to really stop and go inside to then question yourself and say, hold on a minute, I need to do a turnaround because it's not me. I'm living not
Mm-hmm.
the life I'm supposed to live. So, what is that for you? Is self awareness and lack of consciousness one of the root causes when you talk to your customers, where you're helping them with?
Self-awareness plays a really, really key role. Okay. And sometimes we only become self-aware when we hit a wall. like I had my turning point. Actually, most of the time, that's what happens. That's why, you never decide to go see a coach until you've hit a wall. Okay. So, and because we have this capacity of self delusion, which is extraordinary, it's a superpower. Thank goodness. And business owners, I've had a couple businesses in my life, and our ability to be delusional is wonderful. Otherwise, we would never start a business. Who would ever start a business if you didn't, if you didn't have a certain level of like really profound belief in yourself, okay, and your ability to bring this out into the world, okay. So I think I lost my track a little bit because that's a really important point. But anyway, so at some point you become aware that you want to do things differently, or that you are not able to bring this to where you want to be. You hit that wall, okay? And what I would love is for people to come to me before they hit the wall, before they burn out, before their business goes south, before they don't know what to do. I would love for people to come to me beforehand and to develop these skills and these practices in order to be fully, to participate more fully in their journey as business owners, okay? In their journey as business owners or other people, in their life journey. So that's the first aspect. And yes, we do work on self-development. Self-awareness and self-development, obviously, that's a part of it. But it's not only that, it's also just getting into the practice of doing what everybody knows they should be doing. Now, I don't know why business owners think that all of a sudden, just because they founded a business, that they are exempt from having to sleep, having to, drink water, having to eat the right food, because you're not exempt from that. You got to do it. Okay. You have a body, and your body needs that kind of stuff. And if you feed your body correctly, and if you sleep correctly, and if you get outside and see the light of day, like literally the light of day, full spectrum sunlight, and so on, then your body has what it needs for you to show up with more energy, okay? First of all, okay? So that's again the whole reboot part of it, okay? But then there's also deciding what your balance is and figuring out. Now, balance is an ongoing thing. You never find a single balance. It is an everyday thing. I know I'm repeating myself, but it really is a practice. So you have to learn what are the elements that create balance for you, and then how are you going to play with that, because your balance is not going to be the same throughout your entire journey. Okay, so you have to figure out how to play with it, and you have to be able to have this flexibility to be playing with it all the time, even when you're under stressful situations. Okay, so then you have the reconnect, okay, because we are social beings. Okay, there's the connection to the others around us, okay, to the people we're working with, to the clients that who we serve, okay, to our loved ones and our families, to our greater community, to all of us. We are all connected, and we need this social connection, and it really feeds our energy. Okay, so how are you showing up in that connection? How are you showing up serving others? If you have a business, you are serving others, you are necessarily connected. But how aware, to circle back to what you were saying, Corey, is that how aware are you of that connection, and how are you nourishing it, okay, in a way that is going to not only bring you success in your business, but bring your clients success, or whatever it is that you are providing for your clients. Okay, so it is really a journey, and it is multifactorial. Okay.
And I could listen to you for such a long time. There's so much wisdom in what you're talking about that is applicable to everybody, which And it feels like, for me, if I look around, sort of the people around me in business circles, maybe, like you say, they become business owners and they forget, the sleep, they eat the right foods, do the right things. It's like there's a sense of forgetfulness, and like they've lost that piece, or it doesn't. it's not talked about as being a necessary ingredient in the success of one's business, and yet it is.
And yet it is. And yet it
And
is. Yeah.
that's right. So well done you for doing what you're doing, because it's so necessary and so exciting for me to hear you talk about it. It's a lovely segue into my next question, which is thinking about your customers, and they obviously give you feedback about the experience they've gone through and through the program. What's something consistent that you've heard them say about the impact of the work on their lives? Has there been some sort of consistent messages or feedback that they've given you?
So people walk away like completely amazed at both the simplicity and the extraordinary effects of consistency, okay, and how that can be really, really transformational, okay. So there's this combination of of self-awareness. There's these turning points that people will have on their journey, and then there's this sort of burst of real of transformation. Okay, so I hear that, I see that, I see these inflection points when things change. Okay, what people say is that it comes from like really deep, challenging questions and conversations. We have these deep strategic conversations. Okay, and that's really a key component, okay, of what we do together, and that really has an impact on people because it allows them to really develop these different skills and to figure out how they're going to implement it in their life. Okay, people walk away with more resilience. They talk about the resilience, the ability then to be able to manage their stress better, to be able to just be happier and lighter and more confident and more spontaneous. Okay, in addition to actually reaching their goals. Okay, and they say that this comes from this combination of challenging and empathy. Okay, that is all worked into the process that we follow together. Does that answer your question?
Question to you: to have those deeper conversations, which ultimately lead to the breakthrough for every customer, they need to open up themselves towards you. So you need to be able to build this trustful relationship where they're willing not only to drop their pants, but probably even the underwear. Yeah. So how do you manage that? What is
I am never going to
the
forget that
soft
image.
skills?
Okay. So that's a really good question. I realized a little early on in this Potentializer Academy journey that I needed some skills to do that. Okay. So I became a certified coach because coaching really helps. It's a methodology that really enables this ability to create trust and these deep conversations and relationships quickly. Okay, so I trained to be a certified coach. I got certified by the International Coaching Certification. I got the second level of certification from the International Coaching Federation, and so on and so forth. Because those skills, it's a skill set to be able to create a space where people can do this transformational work. And what I really try to do is to make sure that this transformational work is practical, that we go from theory, we're not just talking about it or learning about it or listening to another podcast, to practice, that we are actually doing it and then accompanying them to mastery so that it expresses in their life work. For me, that's the connect piece. The reconnect piece is this life leadership model that the work we do expresses itself in the person's business and overall life. And for me, it's really hard for me to separate, life and professional. I don't know how to do that. I've never known how to do that. It's a life path, okay? And if your life path is serving people through business, that's wonderful. If it is serving a team as a manager, that is wonderful. If it is serving, whatever it is your specific position is, for me, it's the same, and it goes together with the rest of your life, like the sleeping and the social connection and the exercise and the people and how you're involved in the community and what you love to do outside of work, and then how can you love your work and so on and so forth. Okay.
But I think your answer is a little bit too simple. I tell you why. Because I know quite a few certified coaches, and I think even though they are certified, they are not in the they are not able to build a trustful relationship and to connect with the customer. So I would say the answer is twofold. It's the tool set on the one hand, and it's also your ability, the soft skills you have to tune into the customer. So what is it? Is it your charm? Is it your pushiness? Again, I mean, we had conversations before. If you have a customer who is not vibrating on your frequency, then you say, no, I can't do that. Yeah. So what is it? Because you are special. You're a very special coach, not comparable with any other I have seen. And there's something else which enables you to make this connection.
Well, I thank you for that. I don't think that I've ever really formulated it. I think I have a really, truly deep capacity for empathy. So, and I have developed this ability to listen to others, to listen really deeply. Now, that listening is a coaching skill, okay? There's listening and listening, okay? And you combine those two together. That said, I also have this entire path that I've talked about that has required of me, really clear boundaries, like pushing the limits and understanding this notion of resilience, and so I have all of these skills that I bring into it. Okay, and it's true. I am known to fire clients. Okay, I am known to choose not to work with potential clients if they're not going to do the work. It's not so much that we're not vibrating on the same level, because, well, usually people are not vibrating on the level I'm vibrating on because I do all this work, and my goal is to bring them up to this level of vibration, if you want to call it that way. Okay, so it's not so much that that's not the criteria. The criteria is whether they're willing to do the work. Okay, hashtag do the work. Okay, and it's hard. Okay, it's hard, and that's why I'm there to help people. Okay, and I know that profoundly because I do it. I do the work.
Why do they come to you and then not willing to do the work? Are their patterns too strong? The conditioning too gluey? What is it?
I think people mostly are looking for a quick fix. And I'm sorry, there is no quick fix, okay? And yes, you will have small miracles, and you will have small miracles really quickly. I mean, it's pretty easy to double your energy, okay? Like really, really quickly. And if you double your energy, well, actually, it's not a small miracle. It is like a big miracle, and we can do that, okay? But it depends on where the person is in their own personal development, okay? So there is a self-development aspect to it. And if somebody is, well, I know best and I don't want to change, and that happens to all of us. I mean, it depends on where you are. And if you know best and you don't want to change, and you just think that I'm going to, spoon feed you something and it's going to work, well, okay, maybe it will. But that's not the work. That's not what I am proposing, okay? And I'm happy to spend an hour with anybody who wants to come talk to me to see if what I am proposing is something that they really want to do. Okay. And it can be a short-term commitment and it can be a longer-term commitment. Okay. And we can do just the small miracle, again, which I say is not so small, or we can do the longer work. Okay. I'm open to all of that, because any way that we can, create a little bit more of this shift towards agency and this shift towards like just being like energetic, happy, healthy people, doing their work in a good mood, the more we're going to change the world, and the more these businesses are going to be successful, and the more, we're going to step away from this overwhelm and fear. I don't know if that answers your question, but certainly got me talking.
I like that. I'm conscious of the time, and I've got to ask you the question. So, what does being 6-star mean to you?
Six-star means, well, having access to your full energy and presence and best self on demand. Okay. And when you and your team have access to that, you're going to be a 6-star business. Okay. It means you have it when you need it. Okay. It means you have it all the rest of the time, even when you don't need it. Okay. And then you're going to be a 6-star business. It's going to raise the level of your business necessarily.
So, what do you think is the biggest barrier to people reaching that level of 6-star?
Not making the choice. Okay. Not making the choice, like the profound, deep choice that this is important. Okay. So again, we come back to the basics that I've talked about. There's making the choice, there's making that decision. Okay. And then there's integrating the determination, and then there's bringing in the energy. Okay. And that's part of it. Okay. And if you don't actually do that and then do the work, it just doesn't happen. Okay. And we're afraid that we don't have time, it's not about time, it's about energy. Okay. So let's fix the energy piece so you have the energy to do the work. Okay.
That makes total sense. It's just gold. I could keep talking to you for another hour, and I can't believe we're already at this hour. Corey, have you got any final questions or comments for Anne?
Probably I got one. While we were talking, would you say that the biggest barrier comes to the fact that you still are very self centric rather than looking outwards to how to help and be the best version for others? Because we are living in a community, right? We are
Mm-hmm.
social beings. It's not always about us. And very often we just think about us and pretend to be very social and helping others, but we actually don't do. And for me, it sounds like that if you're too much in yourself and circulating around your own thoughts, that this disables you actually to take any action
I think that's a really
because
good point.
keeps you
Mm-hmm.
in the fear stage because it's all about you. What happened to me? What will happen to me if I'm running out of money? If my business fails? And
Mm-hmm.
I just experienced for myself, the more I focused on others, the less I experienced fear, and the more I was able to get in motion and take actions. And
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
helped me to overcome.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think that this connection piece to others, the connection to something greater than yourself, is really, really nourishing and provides a lot of energy. Okay. I I honestly don't think it is the first barrier that people are facing. I think that the first barrier people are facing is to actually consider themselves. Even if they're self-centered, they're not considering themselves. They are not doing what I call radical self-care. You know, and it's a cliche image of putting the oxygen mask on yourself before you help others, but you cannot help others if you are not helping yourself. Okay, but I think that a lot of people think that they are helping them, that they are out just for themselves or taking care of themselves or doing things for themselves, and they are not. Okay, they're more in this no man's land. It's not for me and it's not for other people. It just don't know it. It's about awareness. Okay, so it's these two aspects. It's like truly, honestly taking care of yourself, okay? And accepting yourself and who you are, and like the whole mess. We're messy. Human beings are messy. You accept the whole mess and you take it on and you really own it, okay? That's one aspect. And you connect to what it is that you're doing to others. And when you get that and you keep that balance, well, then, I mean, there's like no stopping you.
Corey's smiling there. I think you answered his question brilliantly. That's what I took anyway. What a great answer. And it has been an absolute pleasure having you. And thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom, your journey, and a little of the sprinkling of what you do. I love that you've put that offer out to people. If they want to spend an hour with you, they can, just to get to know you and see if it's right for them. And yeah, I just love that I love what you're doing. I love the example that you set and the path that you're on. I think there's a lot that is inspiring to me, and I'm sure to our listeners. So thank you for being you and for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anne. Thanks for showing up and sharing your story.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I would love that people walk away with just this idea in mind that life is truly in the choices you make every single instant. So, you know, my invitation is to walk away from this podcast and do something with, you know, one action with what you learned or what, you know, came to mind for you.
Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you, Anne. You have a wonderful, blessed, energetic day, and I look forward to being in touch with you soon. Thank you,
Okay.
Corey.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.